4. It's not just a number, it's a goddamn institution. Whether they be elite, golden, or of the adolescent reptilian stealth assassin variety, the number 4 just resonates. And arguably, there's no quartet more associated with the digit than the Fantastic Four. I mean, hell, it's in their name. Also known as the first family of Marvel, the team helped launch what would go on to become the single largest comic book entity in the entire world. But despite having such an important slot in literary history, their cinematic journey has been less than stellar. First, we had a 90s bootleg so low budget it looked like it was filmed in someone's garage with a potato. It's never gotten an official release, but that didn't stop some asshole from copyright striking my channel without warning one time, and has effectively been lost to history. Then came the 2005 version. Not great, but also not terrible, and had its own sort of charm. And it had peak hotness Jessica Alba. Oof. But just when it got momentum, they nuked it with a misguided sequel. Need I say more than they made Galactus a cloud? A fucking cloud.
That was a bit anticlimactic.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, 2015 happened. Fan 4-Stick, a masterclass in how to take a beloved IP, set it on fire, and call it a reboot.
Clobbering time.
It had all the charisma of a wet sponge and the pacing of a line at the DMV. Luckily, they pulled the plug on any possible sequels to that shit right out of the gate. So here we are. The 10-year curse is ticking down, and Marvel's once again looking to reboot this franchise like some sort of ill-advised cosmic Groundhog Day. This time with the Fantastic Four First Steps. And honestly, I say let's go. 4th time's the fucking charm, right? The film opens up with Reed and Sue, the latter of whom has just taken a pregnancy test. Regrettably for those of us with a pee fetish, we joined just a few minutes too late to enjoy ourselves.
Gross.
But the silver lining is that this scene picked up well after conception, so we don't have to watch a rubbery Pedro Pascal humping a disinterested Vanessa Kirby. Especially considering they mentioned that they were trying for 2 years, which if that's the case, I feel really bad for Sue. Reed being Reed, he spouts off some scientific mumbo-jumbo about radiation and protocols before it cuts to The Ted Gilbert Show, an in-universe Ed Sullivan knockoff, which is highlighting the 4-year anniversary of their mission that gave the Fantastic Four their powers. This serves as a summary of their origin story, as well as their early exploits with the likes of Giganto, Mole Man, and the Mad Thinker, as well as clips from the old 60s cartoon.
It's clobbering time!
That's just in the cartoon.
I won't lie, this is actually a very efficient usage of screen time, as the last thing we need is another fucking origin story.
Alright, let's do this one last time.
This isn't the first time we've seen this technique, but I hope they continue this trend of expedited setup. Unfortunately for us, that quality doesn't extend much further. Back at the Baxter building, we join Ben, Johnny, and the robot from Rocky IV.
It's creepy, that talks, that thing.
In the middle of cooking dinner. Because that's exactly who I want preparing my food. A guy whose tongue is made of rock and a robot without a mouth.
Is that purpose?
No, Chef!
So why?
Both Ben and Johnny think it's weird that Sue and Reed are late for Sunday dinner.
We gonna eat today or what?
And upon arrival, their pregnancy announcement is immediately spoiled due to their inability to not act sus.
You're late.
What do you mean?
You're late for dinner.
Yes, we are.
Are you pregnant?
For some reason that I can't figure out, the fact that Reed came inside of Sue becomes national news. So much so that bookies are even taking bets on the gender reveal. In the process of baby-proofing the house, Reed intercepts a deep space transmission that they can't decipher.
Experiencing terrible rash.
But seeing as how this once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon happens basically weekly for them, Reed ignores it to show Johnny his fancy new egg-transporting machine that only requires half a city's power grid to use.
What the hell does this have to do with anything?
Well, I guess that's one way to lower the price of eggs. With most of Reed's attention tied up in everything except the fucking baby that they tried to conceive for 2 years, Sue is understandably pissed when she finds Rocky IV building the crib. And to show him that the baby is in fact healthy despite his fears over the radiation, she makes her stomach invisible to show him the inner workings of the pregnancy.
That's gross.
Over on Yancey Street, we see the Thing being harassed by locals until he lifts a car over his head. I'm sure the owner's gonna fucking love that.
What the fuck did you do to my car?
The fuck did you do to her car?
We're also introduced to Rachel, who flirts with Ben. Don't worry about getting to know her, though. She's irrelevant to the plot and barely appears again.
Is that it?
Once again at the Baxter building, Reed explains that he's baby-proofed the entire city by mapping out all the criminal organizations. Which you figure he would have done long before this, but I digress. No sooner than he's done speaking, the sky is engulfed and the Silver Surfer arrives.
Your planet is now marked for death. Your world will be consumed by the Devourer.
If you're saying to yourself, I thought the Silver Surfer was a dude, who the fuck is this chrome coochie here? Well, don't worry, we'll get more into that later. Johnny chases the surf her up into the stratosphere, you know, cause he's an idiot. And the lack of oxygen makes his flames dissipate, though for some reason he doesn't pass out with the inability to breathe, which allows the surf her to throw him back to Earth, but not before muttering something in her native tongue.
What did she say? Well, it was in her own language. I don't know.
Reed attempts to track the surf her's energy signature, but she moves far too fast to get any kind of lock. So instead, he backtracks to where she's been, finding nothing but a trail of destroyed planets in her wake. I mean, I've heard of homewreckers before, but this bitch is out of control. In the meantime, while listening to the recordings of the deep space messages, Johnny is able to pick up on the repetition of the phrase he heard earlier. But since he doesn't know what it means, it's just useless information. However, that's gonna have to wait, because apparently despite not being able to track the surf her earlier, now they know exactly where she is and plan to go confront her and her boss Galactus. Using technology that definitely existed in the 60s, they get to Galactus' ship in about 20 minutes, just as it's consuming a planet. Sue uses her powers to cloak their ship, but they are immediately seen anyway, rendering her doing this utterly pointless. Arriving to escort the four to Galactus, the surf her explains to Johnny the planetary selection process and the meaning of the phrase she said earlier.
All that you know is at an end.
And here it is, the moment we've been waiting nearly 20 years to experience.
Is everybody happy now?
Luckily this time he's not a fucking cumulonimbus. He informs Reed and Sue of the immense cosmic potential of their unborn son, then follows this up with an ultimatum that he will spare Earth in exchange for the fetus. Because I guess there isn't any adoption program in the universe willing to approve his application.
Rejected!
The Richards of course turn down his generous and thoughtful offer, and Galactus gets butthurt, threatening to consume Earth even slower now so their son can watch.
We are so screwed.
But like, he's gonna be a few weeks old, he's not gonna have any fucking clue what's going on anyway.
It's a boy!
Obviously, the foursome needs to get the fuck out of Dodge, so Johnny flames, Ben clobbers, but the surfer nearly turns them both into shit smears on Galactus' carpet all the same. Just as all seems lost, the script realizes the only way to deal with a girl boss is with another girl boss, as Sue saves Ben and Johnny from the platinum pussy.
Back off, bitch!
And in the process inducing labor. It's almost like taking a mission to fight an all-powerful being in space with a severe case of pregnant was a horrible idea.
You pregnant! You pregnant!
Somehow, despite being incredibly outmatched and the surfer being able to move faster than the speed of light, they still manage to escape in their ship. Just as they think they've evaded a swift death, old aluminum ass catches up to them, and Sue, as any true hero would, orders Johnny to kill her with lasers.
Sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads.
Seeing as how this was never going to work, they are forced to come up with an alternative strategy. One which involves Ben dropping out of hyperspace near a neutron star to have titanium tits get stuck in the gravitational pull and experience time dilation.
But given that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it.
Some the fuck how this shit works without pulling their dumb asses in as well, and Ben uses the gravity to slingshot around the star back to Earth.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
All of this while Sue is having the baby.
It's a boy! Oh, boy, boy, boy.
I'm sorry, what the fuck just happened?
No fucking idea.
I know this is a comic book movie, but pretty much every law of physics was just broken in under 2 minutes. Not to mention this was probably the single most stressful birth in history, but I'm sure that will have no ill effects on the CGI baby that she just had. Yes, they CGI'd the baby. Freaky! The now Fantastic Five return to Earth and explain everything that happened with Galactus and the decision that they made, which likely doomed the planet and has some predictable results. Meanwhile, Tungsten Twat returns to Galactus and questions his motivations with the newly born Franklin Richards, to which he explains that the baby has infinite potential and can absorb his hunger. Back on Earth, Johnny uses the now translated singular phrase from earlier and a bunch of message recordings to create, in his own words, a makeshift Rosetta Stone to decipher the entire language of the Surfer's planet. Never mind that the actual Rosetta Stone was studied by top linguists who had way more data available than one lone sentence. Oh, and the fact that it took 23 fucking years to fully translate. But don't worry, Johnny, the dumbest member of the Fantastic Four, is gonna pull that shit off in a few weeks simply because the plot demands it.
We are so fucked.
Understandably, the world loses faith in Reed and crew, what with the impending extinction of the human race and all. So as inner cities tend to do, mostly peaceful protests break out. It is here that Sue decides it's time for her to introduce the world to Franklin and tell the story about her dead mother, as if that shit would calm the masses.
Oh my god, who the hell
cares?
Luckily for her, though, Reed has come up with an idea. Remember that egg transportation device from earlier?
No.
You know, the one that used nearly a city block's worth of power?
Not really.
Yeah, well, he wants to make a massive version of that and move the Earth away from our solar system so Galactus can't find it.
We should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
That idea may just be crazy enough to get us all killed!
Wait a minute! You're telling me that he intends to move every living thing thousands of light years away and expects zero complications? Seriously? Let's ignore the insanity and risks involved in moving an entire fucking planet. This device has only been tested on inanimate objects.
You're an inanimate fucking object!
There is no guarantee that this won't kill or at least severely alter every person on Earth mid-transport. Oh, and did the smartest man on the planet just forget that not only can Galactus sense energy anywhere in the universe, he has a scout that can literally travel faster than the speed of light. This is a temporary solution at best and more likely an instant death sentence. Clearly, the word assemblers went to the Michael Bay School of Astrophysics and flunked the fuck out. Anyway, a massive unrealistic worldwide campaign of cooperation for both construction and energy consumption begins in order to create the space bridges. All while Galactus very, very, very slowly approaches. The space bridges are completed in cities all around the world, and just as they begin the moving process, Boreum Bitch arrives and within minutes destroys nearly all of them. As the Surf Her is about to destroy the last one in Manhattan, Johnny chases her down and somehow activates every billboard to play his predictably translated messages. He then takes the time to explain her own backstory right to her, as if she didn't know that shit already. This causes her to have a panic attack and flee.
You bitch!
Now in need of a new plan, they decide that if they can't move Earth from Galactus, they will move Galactus from Earth.
Not a great plan.
Using Franklin as bait, they intend to get Galactus to step on the last functional bridge, stranding him without a ship somewhere in deep space. I guess lucky for them, the one remaining one isn't over in Tokyo or some shit. But honestly, that might have actually been a more appropriate location since this is where the movie truly becomes the definition of disappointing. As they take Galactus, one of the coolest characters in Marvel, and essentially turn him into Godzilla, stomping around the city destroying buildings in pursuit of an infant. An infant which he eventually gets, by the way. Mostly because they try to stop him by doing dumb shit like throwing cars at him, which is about as effective as shooting a grizzly bear with a fucking BB gun. But as this movie is shown, there's no limit to what a woman can do. And Sue eventually shows up to use her powers and maternal instinct to push Galactus onto the space bridge and transport him elsewhere.
You go, girl!
As soon as they think they're safe, Galactus reemerges, leading Johnny to make the decision to sacrifice himself to save Franklin. But he doesn't need to do that shit, he just gets shoulder checked by Vanadium Vagina, who proceeds to tackle Galactus.
Why the sudden change of heart?
Unfortunately for Sue, the stress of pushing a fucking space god was just a bit too much for her, and she has come down with a mild case of death.
Mom's dead!
I'm dead.
But no big, Franklin just baby ex machinas her back to life. I mean, when has somebody dying ever really mattered in these movies anyway? The film closes with the Fantastic Five no-showing the Ted Gilbert Show to install a car seat, and after a 4-year time jump, we see Dr. Doom comes to visit Franklin. Which would have been fun if they hadn't already spoiled that shit nearly a year ago. Oh, and don't bother to stay after the credits, as they simply waste your time with part of an old cartoon. What a shitty, underwhelming way to use this IP, making it a collection of predictable cliches and generic bullshit capped off by a paint-by-numbers climax. It wastes one of the single best villains in Marvel's entire catalog while suffering from a severe lack of action, relying mostly on conversations between people we don't really care about, explaining things that are happening rather than showing them. Not to mention this is about 6 years too late for what it is. Had this come out prior to Endgame, I'd likely have enjoyed it and been more invested. But at this point it feels like just another scoop of shit being shoveled onto the grave of the MCU, not aided by the recent announcement that they're looking to reboot in the very near future. Weirdly enough, not only does this movie feel extremely tardy due to its release date, it also seemed like the movie's press tour has been going on for about 3 years. And the longer it went on, the stranger it became. It was as if Disney wanted us all to forget how much they buried this IP and began gaslighting it to oblivion, as though it was a movie people had been clamoring about for decades. Each public event, publicity stunt, and interview just kept getting weirder and weirder. Maybe not quite on the level of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande from last year, but a close second.
Do you think it's safe to say that Reed is the first capital D daddy in the MCU?
Are there no other fathers?
I don't know about the rest of you, but I am so done with Pedro Pascal. I'm not sure what incriminating evidence or deal with the devil he has, but we just can't escape this motherfucker. No matter the role or how ill-fitting he is for it, studios seem to be bending over backwards to shove his square peg right into their round hole. It would be one thing if audiences simply couldn't get enough of the guy, but even casual moviegoers are realizing how overexposed he is. In the last 5 years alone, he's been in about 24 film and television projects, most hyped beyond belief. Not to mention being front and center on social media, being a blatant hypocrite, and an absolute retard. Oh, and did I mention he's a total creep who uses his mental health as a guise to grope his female co-stars?
Stop touching me, Elmo! When you press his back, Elmo puts his hand on your knee and says fun things.
Have you ever been tickled on the inside?
I don't normally advocate for this kind of invasion of privacy, but I really think that the FBI should check this dude's hard drive, because I'm quite certain that you'll find something that can lock his ass up for a while.
There's nothing in his outgoing mail, and his search history's wiped.
As for his performance here, I'll try to be fair despite my seething hatred for this Hollywood shill. He's generally not bad at the craft of acting. That's when he isn't completely checked out.
This is the way.
But he is definitely not Reed Richards. First of all, he looks nothing like any interpretation of the character ever.
That's racist.
Not aided by the fact that he seemingly refused to shave his mustache off. Which is really fucking weird since he's done it for multiple roles before.
Life is good, but it can be better.
Secondly, he feels more like Pedro Pascal attending a Comic-Con in a bad Mr. Fantastic cosplay. You'd think someone who supposedly has social anxiety would be able to accurately portray the socially awkward Reed Richards. But instead he comes off like a completely different character entirely. Unfortunately for us, Senor Fantastico is already confirmed for Avengers Doomsday and by extension likely 9 more MCU projects going forward. So the Pascal Theater saturation dilemma will continue for the foreseeable future.
How long is this going to take?
One can only hope he'll have a similar treatment to John Krasinski, or maybe we'll get lucky and he'll have the same fate he had in Game of Thrones.
Good.
You can't really talk about Reed without Sue. The two of them are intrinsically connected on a level few in comic history can match. On par with the likes of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, or Batman and underage boys.
Bubble, you can't say that.
It's because of this that the chemistry needs to be just right. And truthfully here, I wasn't feeling it. Often the line exchanges between the two of them feel very clinical, almost as if they're reading from cue cards. There is a possibility that it's because Vanessa Kirby is not using her natural speaking voice, so it just comes off as robotic at times. And this coming from a guy who's known for his monotonous tone speaks volumes. You know, now that I think about it, these two characters seem like they're written backwards.
Yes, we are.
Reed is the brain, cold, logical, calculated, while Sue is meant to be more of the heart of the team, warm, charming, and a mother. And both Pedro and Vanessa somehow remove all of that simultaneously.
There are a few things that one can do to the cast of a film to immediately piss off the established audience, and among the most effective at pulling this feat off is a pointless gender swap. It's because of this that, of all the misses in casting here, the most glaring is Julia Garner as Shala Ball, aka the Silver Surfer.
I don't know shit about fuck.
I get that they wanted to save Doctor Doom for an Avengers movie, and even though I personally believe this is a huge mistake, I can live with it. But if you're gonna go the Galactus route, you should at least go with his most iconic herald in Norrin Radd. This decision screams of woke and isn't doing the studio any favors in trying to silence those who call it the MCU. Taking a what-if issue and making it the new cinematic de facto for no reason other than feminizing Marvel even further. What's worse is that there was a much better option to go with that would have felt more organic. If they had just set up for Frankie Ray to become Nova, it would have given them their female herald without sacrificing the Silver Surfer. But as is par for the course with Marvel word assemblers, they have no fucking brains.
You are stupid.
As for the rest of the cast, what can I say? They all feel incomplete. Among the core four, Ben probably gets the shortest end of the stick. He has the smallest amount of screen time and subsequently the least character development. It seems like at some point they just abandoned a majority of his storylines and called it a day. You could replace him in nearly every scene and the plot wouldn't change whatsoever. Also, his voice doesn't fit at all. When you think of Ben Grimm, you can hear in your head that Lower East Side Brooklyn-esque accent, and here he just sounds so generic.
Couple cloves of garlic. Not because it's not delicious, I just want to add a little bit of zip.
If you're gonna use someone primarily for the vocals of a character, that person probably should try a little harder to sound regionally accurate or something.
That's not really something I say.
Johnny gets a bit more to do, but often has his legs cut out from underneath him. Every time he's gonna do something cool or heroic, he fails for comedic effect or gets upstaged. This coupled with how inconsistent his intellect is portrayed, makes him feel like a character who was just used in whatever situation that cropped up regardless of whether it made any narrative sense. bouncing between impulsive hothead, obedient subordinate, and even lovesick puppy. I get the sense that the word assemblers were trying to make up for the way the character was used in the past.
Oh, you're hot. Why, thank you, so are you.
But this creates a situation where they never really let Johnny be Johnny.
Avengers, flame on! Sorry, what?
Last and done dirtiest in the script is Galactus. I'll get this out of the way because I know there's gonna be people who disagree. This is a terrible interpretation of the Devourer of Worlds.
Oh, hell no!
He's supposed to be a force of nature driven by necessity, not emotion. But here he comes off as petty, threatening revenge when it should be beneath him. And by the time Act 3 rolls around, he's relegated to a generic kaiju-style monster, which is not really what we needed out of such a cosmic-level threat. This might be the biggest example to date of Marvel Studios really not understanding what makes a compelling villain, just opting to make them evil for the sake of being evil. In this instance, they briefly played around with his motives before having him whip out his gat and go, "Oh yeah, well fuck you and your planet."
You ain't black.
That being said, he honestly does look great, and that goes for the film as a whole. Despite the horrid early test footage and the incomplete post-production trailers, this is the best looking CGI we've gotten out of the MCU in years. Which is good considering there was absolutely no fucking way around it. Galactus, Silver Surfer, and The Thing, even though his head is way too goddamn small, are all significant steps up from recent travesties of computer-rendered justice. And the general aesthetic of the futuristic 60s is really well done.
What's the bad news?
This time my biggest complaint in terms of production value once again lies in the sound mixing. There were several scenes where it was damn near impossible to understand what was being said, and I really could have used some fucking subtitles. This problem isn't exclusive to Marvel, as it continues to be endemic to Hollywood as a whole. At this point, I think it's safe to say that sound mixing is officially a lost art like Damascus Steel or fellatio after marriage.
Return the favor. I don't think she sucks his dick.
Oh, watch your mouth.
Another saving grace was the movie's length. It's good to see that studios are seemingly abandoning the normalized 2.5-hour film for the much more compact sub 120-minute model. I hope that this trend continues, since most of these movies nowadays suck ass, and at least it's a smaller dose of ass suckery. So was the fourth time the charm? Not really. First Steps wasn't the most egregiously offensive Marvel film by any stretch. It didn't go down in flames like many, myself included, expected. That being said, it wasn't nearly good enough to be the rock-solid cornerstone the MCU desperately needs right now. We have somehow found ourselves in a world where mediocre is considered good, and much like many of its contemporaries, this was mostly bland and forgettable, which will lead to it vanishing from the zeitgeist rather quickly. It had some decent things going for it, and is probably the best Marvel movie this year, perhaps even of the last few, whatever that's worth. However, in the end, that just makes it the smartest kid on the short bus. General audiences will probably enjoy it once, but it will likely leave zero cultural footprint. It's gotten to the point where it's now become a chore for casual moviegoers to keep up with all the happenings of the MCU. The series has grown to such an immense size that it's nearly impossible to sustain itself. And much like Galactus, it's constantly consuming what it can from each IP before moving on in search of something new to take its place. But hell, at least this time it wasn't as bad as Captain America: Brave New World. And if that doesn't convince you that Fantastic Four: First Steps isn't great despite being slightly less crappy than the rest, I don't know what to tell you. A big special thanks to Sin from Sin's Corner for providing the audio for the Silver Surfer section. A link to her channel can be found in the description.